Parliament is back and things are happening that will affect your life, so you should care about it. Let's talk about it all. First, the players on the board this Parliament have changed slightly since my last video. The Conservative Party won back a seat from the Liberals after a judicial recount confirmed the Conservative candidate as the winner. He initially lost the riding by 12 votes to his Liberal counterpart, but a final recount overseen by a judge confirmed that he actually won by 12 votes. This means that the Conservatives are up to 144 seats in the House of Commons from 143, and the Liberals have dropped from 170 to 169. That's 3 seats away from a majority, which means they'll need at least 3 votes from MPs from other parties to pass their legislation. Actually, they technically need 4 now, but I'll explain that in a second. Now, this comes after the Conservatives, as I've mentioned a few times now, did some really icky fundraising around the recounts. They were suggesting that the Liberals, with the help of the media, were somehow trying to tip the scales in the recount of already cast ballots that are overseen by a judge. Yeah, that suggestion is as stupid as you think. And the Conservatives actually doubled down on this misleading, idiotic claim after they found out they had won the recount, saying that, quote, "Thanks to your generous support, we were able to mobilize our team and win 2 major election recounts." To be clear, there was nothing that any party could do to impact the outcome in their favor here. Liberals couldn't tip the scales and Conservatives couldn't fundraise their way to a different result. The only thing that funds could do is help pay for them to send scrutineers to watch this count happen, but it doesn't tip the scales in anyone's favor except towards the accuracy of this count of already cast ballots. It's just an extra set of eyes on ballots that have already been ticked. And I know I keep harping on about this claim, but it's because it's so dangerous and stupid. And it empowers mouth-breathing influencers like this guy to make ridiculous fear-mongering videos. And we've already seen what can happen in a democracy when people lose trust in their democratic institutions thanks to lies and disinformation. Need I say more? Moving on, I know I just said to you that the Liberal caucus is just 3 seats away from having a majority government, but they're actually going to need 4 votes, not 3, from MPs from other parties to pass any legislation. Because the House of Commons just voted in a secret ballot to elect their new speaker, and they chose Liberal MP Francis Scarpaleggia. The speaker is a person who yells like, "Order, order," when all the MPs are acting like big babies and yelling at each other. They lay down the rules of Parliament, and they get to live in an official residence. Fancy. They're also required to be nonpartisan, they don't go to caucus meetings anymore, they don't participate in debates, and they only vote in the House of Commons if there's a tie. So that means the Liberals only have 168 votes in the House right now, and they'll need 4 MPs from other parties to support their legislation. Meanwhile, the Conservatives and the Liberals met with their respective caucuses yesterday, and their leaders delivered remarks before they booted out the media. Both of their comments gave us a sense of the direction they'll be taking in the House of Commons starting this week, though only one of the men speaking actually has a seat there. Something the Liberal government House leader very diplomatically acknowledged, speaking in an interview with Rosie Barton on CBC yesterday, might change the tone in Parliament slightly.
Obviously, Mr. Poilievre is a unique presence, and that absence will be felt for some time. Conservatives have said that'll be of short duration, and so obviously we expect him back in the House of Commons soon enough.
Anyways, heading in, Carney called his 169 MPs the, quote, conscience of the party, and he also emphasized how busy they're about to be. He told them Canadians elected their government to do nothing less than define a new economic and security relationship with the United States, build the strongest economy that works for everyone, make Canadian lives more affordable, and make their communities safer. He also just kind of reiterated a lot of the priorities we already heard from him in the mandate letter, in the Liberal platform, and that we'll probably hear again in the throne speech tomorrow that'll be delivered by King Charles. Carney also told us some of the stuff the government is going to move immediately to try to enshrine into law in what he says is going to be one of the busiest parliaments in Canadian history. Something that isn't entirely up to Mark Carney, so we'll see if they can actually be busy or if procedural games will slow things down with like filibusters and annoying stuff like that. To give you a sense of the stuff that they are going to be moving on, like legislatively right off the bat, Carney said they're going to get going right away on legislating what he calls their middle class tax cut, as well as the GST cut for first-time homebuyers. They'll introduce immediate legislation to fast-track projects of national interest and to eliminate all federal barriers to free trade in Canada, which he's promised we'll have by Canada Day. But more than anything, he promised MPs they're going to have a lot on their plate.
We are going to be very, very busy in the next few weeks. But we are going to be very, very busy in the next few months. We are going to be very, very busy in the next few years. We're going to have to do things previously thought impossible at speeds not seen in generations.
Another thing that came out of this caucus meeting on Sunday is that the Liberal MPs actually voted against adopting the Reform Act, meaning they did not give themselves the power to turf Carney as leader. So we'll see how that decision plays out for them. Meanwhile, Poilievre told us what the Conservatives will be busy doing in the House of Commons while he sits outside of it. The big thing that I think you can expect to hear a lot about from the Conservatives is the fact that Canada isn't going to have a budget until this fall. We're technically supposed to have a budget every spring, and Poilievre said he's going to push for a spring budget. But spring? Yeah, that ends in 5 days, so good luck with that. Poilievre also, with his signature charm, called the government morbidly obese. Yes, really. Take a listen.
For too long, workers and small businesses have carried this morbidly obese government on their backs.
Poilievre also laid out 5 main issues that his MPs plan to push the government on: getting homes built by cutting taxes and red tape, restoring economic independence by unleashing Canadian businesses and resources, bringing safety to Canadian streets by locking up dangerous offenders and securing our borders, getting immigration under control, and, as I already said, pushing for a spring budget. Now, the government has already said the reason they aren't tabling a spring budget, which is basically the blueprint for their economic agenda, is because of all the economic uncertainty right now. Basically, all of the bullshit from Trump is making it really hard to give a clear financial picture because things are changing so much from one day to the next. But the former parliamentary budget officer, Kevin Page, did say in an interview with CBC News that this is, quote, not a strong argument, and that having a budget actually helps deal with uncertainty because Canadians can know what to expect from their government. That said, he did have some sympathy for the argument that the government would have very little time to put together that document before the House rises for the summer. That's just a few weeks away. The government has promised to table a budget this fall, though, so we will get a fiscal picture from them then. But oh boy, are we going to hear a lot about not having a budget in the meantime. Can't wait. The last thing I want to highlight from Poilievre's speech is the unhinged way he characterized protests against the ongoing genocide in Gaza. He totally, flagrantly mischaracterized them and promised to crack down on them. Super free speech of him. Oh, and in response, his caucus gave him a standing ovation. Take a listen.
We must ensure that foreign conflicts are left at the door. No more rampaging anti-Semitic riots on Canadian streets.
Genuinely foul. Moving on from this disgusting display of bad faith and determination to be on the wrong side of history, the teeny tiny NDP caucus also laid out their priorities today. They, like the Conservatives, said the government should be tabling a budget in the coming weeks, calling it really strange to say that we can wait for the fall, and highlighting that the government had already started planning a budget before the election. The NDP also promised to push the government on issues like affordability, workers, healthcare, and housing. But when pressed on how they're going to do that, given how tiny their little caucus voice is, the NDP interim leader Don Davies had this to say.
Again, in a minority parliament where the minority government has 169 seats and needs 3 for a majority, any party that has 7 seats obviously has a balance of power. And so I think that we're going to be able to play a profoundly important role this Parliament.
Oh, and I guess I should mention the royals are here and King Charles is delivering the throne speech tomorrow. It's usually read by the Governor General, the King's representative in Canada, but this time the old fellow is coming to read the speech himself. It's going to be written by the Prime Minister's office and will lay out the government's priorities. And while the broad consensus is that there won't be anything surprising in the speech, that it'll basically just lay out the priorities that we have already heard from Carney like multiple times, it's not uncommon for Governor Generals, at least, to give a little personal comment off the top before they read the throne speech. So the one thing that could be interesting will be if Charles does the same and what he has to say. That's the latest in Canadian politics. I'll be back tomorrow with even more. Until then, what do you think of all this?